Welcome back to those who have been following the ever ongoing saga of Premier Research Laboratories and wellnesswithinreach.com. I'm here again with Will Marsh, the #1 man in sales and really understanding the products at Premier Research. We've been, I'll say, selectively moving forward to hopefully bring forward a little knowledge to all of you about why Premier is #1. So from the very top here, Will, take it and we'll start talking about that aspect of live sourcing.
Well, as always, thank you, Peter. And if you guys really love these videos and the information that we're presenting and want more, it is all found on wellnesswithinreach.com, as with the line. And if you ever need to hook up with my man, Peter Howe, and consulting on the line and any nutritional advice or, getting advice on your journey, he is here to support you. And it's an honor to be here with you all today. Today, we will be diving a little bit more into the concept of cellular resonance. And I think a facet to that really captivates me and that I'm passionate about, as you should be as well, with the foods and the nutrients that you are consuming, is this premise of live sourcing and what that entails, why that's important, and how you can make sure that you are getting live sourcing in what you eat and the foods and the supplements that you consume. I mean, hopefully the foods that you eat are live source, but you would be actually surprised with what the food industry can sometimes come up with and those packaged materials that, typically if you're navigating down the center aisle of the grocery store, you might not find as many live source nutrients. So it's all a passion. But when we talk about live source, we're really hitting on the fact that what you are consuming, the nutrients that you're consuming, are coming from a once living thing. And so what that really entails is that you get the full body of light, and we will dive into bodies of light and resonance frequencies and everything on a later call, but you get the full body of light that was, the sunlight in essence that came from the sun and was instilled into that once living nutrient that can actually radiate out and elicit the biological effects that you're looking for. That's a Dr. Marshall adage, and that sounds very woo-woo in the approach, but really what we're looking at is the synergistic compounds, the phytonutrients, the bioflavonoids, the polyphenols, these cofactors that we like to call them in the nutraceutical world, that support the action of the main derivative you're looking for. So an example is vitamin C. Everybody knows vitamin C, ascorbic acid, right? That's the technical term. When you look at vitamin C, ascorbic acid, it has a redox oxidation kind of reaction in the body to help, support the immune system, supports basic inflammation markers in the body. It helps to quench free radicals that are in circulation. But the thing is ascorbic acid on its own cannot do all that. And typically ascorbic acid in a lemon, it has all these other factors with it that supports the ascorbic acid's function, right? And it quenches possibly other free radicals, and it takes the burden, right? Imagine you're a worker and you have to do all the work yourself. It's not going to be as efficient. Now, if you have all these synergistic nutrients with that support the main worker and its action, which is living source, right? It came from a live source. It has all this body of light, these full range of polyphenols and, co-nutrient factors with it. The ascorbic acid can do what it really needs to do in the body, and it allows all those other nutrients to support what it needs. And so a product, when I think you can go to our vitamin C, I think of vitamin C even in our wheelhouse is a great example of this. So let's go to wellnesswithinreach.com here, and we'll pull up our vitamin C and let's dive into it a little bit. I'll get to our max B2 because I think that is a great point. But with our vitamin C Premier here, as you can see, Peter, do you see any ascorbic acid listed there?
Why, no, Will. How come?
Well, our vitamin C Premier is actually an amla fruit extract. It's sourced from a fruit, and the vitamin C in there, though it might, technically chemically be identified as ascorbic acid, you have a fruit-derived vitamin C that is essentially full nutrient spectrum because it includes the parts of the amla fruit with that. And then, and this is the cool thing about Premier Research Labs, we make sure to include a synergistic nutrient blend to support the vitamin C and its action. So you're not you're not only getting a live source nutrient for the vitamin C, you're also getting a full complex of complementary nutrients and herbal derivatives that can either support the vitamin C in its action, support the body and the resonance to accepting that vitamin C and integrating that vitamin C. I mean, rosehip, cilantro, you're supporting different organ gland systems that the vitamin C might be needing to, really dive into and support. And you also have further antioxidant and kind of redox support nutrients with the quercetin and even the hesperidin. But it's, and then of course there's no filler. Look at that. There's no maltodextrin, there's no magnesium stearate. Part of the manufacturing process, you'll look and you'll see, why do you have so much rice concentrate in your product or rice bran? And the thing is that is a nutritive filler for part of the manufacturing process. I mean, to put all that goodness, the 350 milligrams of Super C Pro Blend and the vitamin C, the 135 milligrams, into one capsule, we have to make sure that that process is super efficient. So this is just one example of how Premier Research Labs is going above and beyond, because as you can see, this is a vitamin C. If you go to most grocery stores, most supplement companies, their vitamin C is ascorbic acid, and then they include magnesium stearate, and they call it as good as gold.
They might throw in some rose hips.
They might throw in some rose hips.
But
Yeah.
And let me just build really quick on that aspect of synergistic compounding. And what I think with what, in a few words here, is that synergistic is that it actually supports, each product supports itself to be fully assimilated into the body's systems. So we really are getting the most out of the C, right?
Yeah, and I think here's another facet of it. When you look at traditional supplement modalities of vitamin C, and a lot of our other nutrient compounds, people always look for mega doses. They're looking for the 5,000 grams, the 1 gram of vitamin C. But people have to realize that's of ascorbic acid, and they have to first of all, think of the burden, right? If your dietary intake should only be around 100 milligrams of vitamin C a day, and you choose to take 5 grams of ascorbic acid, that is a burden that your body has to process through to actually assimilate, right? And so the thought process with Premier Research Labs is we are going to take a nutrient compound like vitamin C. We're going to equip it, right? Just like you would a soldier, with all the ammo, all the ammunition, all the reinforcement that it needs to do its action. And it should be, first of all, better assimilated, because it's actually
might I say, a United Nations soldier.
Right, United Nations soldier. Not to get political on the voting, but we're going to equip it effectively so that you're not having to take a mega dose. You're looking at a synergistic nutrient profile, and you're actually able to have the vitamin C carry out the function it needs to. Because really, in reality, when you take 5 grams of vitamin C, the shuttling ability of the body for that 5 grams is vastly inefficient. You are just quantity over quality at that point, and you are making the body get.
Thus, my pee is yellow.
Yes, exactly. And so that's why, you're burdening potential detox pathways as well. I mean, you're just overloading the system trying to elicit a response, while in our mind, it's better, let's go through the process of really nourishing the body to elicit that effect, and be very complementary in our modality, so that we're not peeing yellow. We're actually having elicit that effect that our body is needing. And so, I get the question all the time, why don't we have a higher dose of vitamin C? You don't need a higher dose of vitamin C. This is an optimal dose of vitamin C if you have the synergistic nutrients to support the vitamin C. So this is just one example. I think it's a great example because everybody knows vitamin C, but of live source and live nutrients and cellular resonance, kind of what we're hitting on.
And I'll just make the plug, due to our situation now and moving into colder weather, vitamin C is a huge immune booster.
And people don't realize, a lot of studies are done on synthetic ascorbic acid. They're not done on a live source nutrient profile like our amla fruit extract and our vitamin C. And so, when you look at studies, and, I always be very conscientious of what the raw material, the starting point of what a lot of different research bodies are looking at, because whole food derived nutrients are vastly different than their synthetic derivatives that are used in a lot of different lab processes and research studies. So I encourage you all to, ask the question, what were you using for your vitamin C, and compare it to this and see what the differences are, because I think that would be a very interesting experience. Just for your knowledge, when you're reading, like if you're a geek on nutrition like me and you're reading in the wee hours of the morning about different nutraceutical formulations, ask the question, what kind of vitamin C was that? Was that a whole food extract, or was that a synthetic ascorbic acid that they were using in this study? I think it'd be interesting.
Yes. Well, shall we move on to the mighty world of bees?
Yes, and we'll kind of end here, because I do want to make sure we'll have more to go with. But everybody knows their B vitamins. Oh, there's a picture of Peter.
Ah, yes, the smiling self.
Hair's looking good as always.
Yeah.
So with Premier Research Labs, and this is kind of another facet to what makes us so cool and so unique, is that we have this whole nano-digested line. And so with the nano-digested line, you're looking at live source nutrients like the B vitamins, but they've actually gone through a secondary fermentation process to further incorporate a live source aspect, which is fermentation. So fermentation further imbues, I guess would be the better word, the nutrient profile with that live source aspect. We love fermentation. Fermentation is the mad scientist of the nutraceutical world that is for the good. We're not a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde scenario here. We're actually trying to support further support the body with a fermentation modality. And so when we look at the Max B here, it looks like your typical B supplement. It is a liquid, which is a little different. But when you read on the back, or you look at these other ingredients, you're like, fermented probiotic media culture. It's got organic molasses. Why the hell does it have molasses in there? Cane sugars and sea mineral concentrate. Well, actually, that's all part of the fermentation. That is essentially part of the fermentation media that, when you look at the end product, actually, there's traces of organic molasses. There's traces of cane sugar or cane alcohol. And then there's the sea mineral concentrate to that. But then you have this whole fermented probiotic media that is in the product that has been working previously before it landed on your door to break down essentially all the different B complexes and unlock the further biological activity of those Bs. And so a lot of times when I talk about B vitamins and I talk about, our Max B and D, I like to talk about B12. Everybody knows B12, which powerhouse. And if you're not taking B12 and you're feeling like you need a boost of energy, B12 is your go-to guy. The thing is most people, first of all, in the supplement world and the fortification world, which is a subset of, nutraceuticals, right? Because if you look at bread on the grocery store shelf, it's fortified, right? The FDA mandates fortification. They normally use cyanocobalamin, for B12, which is a synthetic. It does not have the biological capacity of the body to actually elicit the same effect as methylcobalamin, which is the preferred form in the body. That's why there's differences, right? And so you want to make sure that the cobalamin for the B12 that you're using is at the very, very least, a methylcobalamin. Please do not, cyanocobalamin, first of all, why would you want to take anything with cyanide in it? But second of all, just the biological effect on the body is limited. There's a whole interconversion that has to happen to cyanocobalamin to methylcobalamin. And if you have any genetic dispositions, if you have any lacking of nutrients, that whole conversion of that cyanocobalamin to the active methylcobalamin is going to be limited. And furthermore, you're just having to spend nutrients to get that methylcobalamin. But anyways, that's besides the point. When you look at the Max B here and the B12 that we actually have in the Max B, it's a methylcobalamin that was originally sourced from a live source. It's a probiotic derived B12. What we've then done is we've taken that end methylcobalamin and we fermented it again with all these other B vitamins. And so what the probiotics do, the probiotics say they're not necessarily using the B complexes because they're in this nutrient media, but they're processing them as they go through the media, and they do their probiotic thing. Essentially, they're floating in space and they pick up these methylcobalamins or this B12, and then they chew on it a little bit and then they spit it out. Essentially, that's kind of the analogy I'm going to go with. They chew on it and they spit it out, and it might be methylcobalamin. It actually might be converted to hydroxycobalamin or adenosylcobalamin. And so then what you have, and what we do is we stop that fermentation process after a short amount of time, and then we put that in the bottle and we send it off. And so it has, when you do a lab test, it comes up as vitamin B12, but the reality of it is that the majority of it is methylcobalamin, but you actually get adenosylcobalamin. And what most people don't know is you get hydroxycobalamin, which is a blood active form that people do not see in supplements at all, but it has a biological effect in the body with methylation, biological, various biological processes, and typically in regards to methylation, but food processing, energy levels, X, Y, and Z. But all of these different B12 isomers have a biological capacity to elicit an effect, and it's a full spectrum. We're not just overloading the body on one different nutrient derivative. We're allowing it to be better assimilated because it has that full B12 profile that you would normally find in any natural living source. So, you don't typically find nutrients at one stage in food. You find them part of either macromolecules, you find them, kind of in complexes, you find them attached to other things, right? And the body has to sort it all out. But that's what the body's good at. And that allows the body to then say, oh, I need this nutrient to support this process, or I need this to support this process. And it allows it to shuttle it more effectively because it's already been partially converted to one end stage or another. And so I know that's a lot of true. I know that's a little cerebral, but really what I'm trying to hit on here is that when you have that complex, you have that spectrum that is from a live source that allows for that cellular resonance, you are essentially giving the body, I guess, a cheat roadmap to get it to that end goal, to get it to that destination. When you don't give it that cheat roadmap and you throw a bunch of ascorbic acid or B12 in the cyanocobalamin form, the body then has to figure out where it needs to go from there. And that can slow down the whole process of giving you the nutrient that you need right then and there.
And
so,
if I can just throw in again for a more layman term, is when we are taking something like ascorbic acid or something not live source, then the body has to figure out how to assimilate it so it starts taking from itself to try and figure out. So we're in a state of placebo, but yet we're actually weakening ourselves in the long run. Whereas with live sourcing, where it's in a food process, then we can, as we assimilate, the body just uptakes and it supports every function instead of taking away from one function or another. Is that a quick way of putting it?
I think that's a very quick way of, better than me trying to dive into organic chemistry.
But this is where I go to you, Will, because you actually know what the heck you're talking about. So this is really good.
I got to speak to the audience at some level, though. So
yeah, no, it's great. Hey, for those who really, I get stumped all the time because people are doing their research and they come up with questions that I don't have the answers to, because my science is more of, let me be the practitioner, let me understand the symptoms so we can go to sourcing. And this is what I love about Premier. It's really allowing ourselves to go to source the whys instead of the symptom. And I preach it over and over and over again, and it works. It really works.
That's why we're all about nutrition that really works. So.
That's what it's about. So I know you've got a schedule, and we'll continue this again next week. Yeah. So I want to thank you for your time. I know you're a busy boy out in Texas right now. So anyways, this being the great day of elections, I'll just put out, may there be peace to all of us, no matter what the outcome. And again, I say thank you for your time. A great one.
And hugs to the clan out there. And you're the best. Thanks for stepping up and helping us